Okay, it is December 11th, almost Christmas. I hope everybody's doing a good job with their Christmas shopping list. I have been gathering elves and getting my list ready. A lot of work there. We have a great guest today. We're going to have maybe a whole recount of the journey of Dell Technologies. Um, and lots of stuff going on, including, all kinds of wild things with, people that return their cars to the dealership through destroying the windows and stuff, and technology projects. And it's fascinating what's happening in the world. Anyway, let's get going with our own John Sibley Butler in some music.
You could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts would tell. Just like an old time movie about a ghost in a wishing well, in a castle dark, or a fortress strong with chains up on my feet. Know that ghost is me, and I could never be set free as long as I'm a ghost that you can't see.
All right.
That's an
Thank
all
you,
night
Johnny.
tune. One of the best tunes ever.
So,
How you doing?
so Johnny, I'm curious about your thoughts about, a lot of stuff going on. Some people are really concerned about this serial killer, supposedly person, healthcare business, stuff. And obviously, CES is coming up, Consumer Electronics Show in January, and I think last week we talked a lot about the mood on the street is pretty upbeat. The market is up dramatically, continues to climb up. Startups, innovation, investments. So anyway, what say you, December 11th?
Oh, well, it was pretty tragic that the healthcare CEO was killed. I think they're trying to get to the bottom of it. Was it there's no pattern, but there is a pattern, but there's really no pattern. That is, the expectations that someone like this would do this it would be very, very low. But on the other hand, the expectation that someone was really, really angry and was a hit person is very, very high, and how the hit person was very, very high. But we don't allow those kind of things to do setbacks in the industry world. If someone gets mad with healthcare stuff, we certainly have to move on and let the officers and the FBI do what they need to do. But I tell you what, it was a bad day for Wall Street, a bad day for America. It just looks bad, and we all pray for the victim's family. And I know that they have caught him. He's very interesting. He's very, very defiant. Um, he was a computer science major, master's in computer science. And went to Penn. Had a lot of networking going on, but he had a bad back, and my guess is he blamed his bad back and his pain on the health on the health industry. I don't know, but and I think the health industry is the third largest industry. I'm thinking probably
Mm-hmm.
behind. I'm thinking, I'm not sure. It's probably the third largest industry behind Apple and the others. But anyway, so that's very, very unfortunate. I was thinking about the economy and how we measure it. I've been reading a lot of books on China, and me, I go back to the early ways economics developed, and
Mm-hmm.
before we put mathematics to it, it was called economic thought. And one of the things that I find interesting is that if you look at the GNP, and then you do a breakdown of the GNP, and ours is not based on production. I mean, on anything that we produce except finance. Finance is huge now. On the other hand, China's is based on the whole idea of producing stuff. So it's very interesting to look at the economy now, as finance has really, really taken a big hunk of kind of of what we do. So we have to keep those measurements and always remember that the entrepreneur spirit will interact with those measures and always disrupt those measures. So the Sears and Roebuck riding high would be the Sears and Roebuck riding low, in future, or the blockbuster riding high would change. But I think that as we go in to it, and as the president-elect is talking about doing certain things like draining the swamp, that if they release, a million federal employees, when you push something, you have to push something else. You have to ask what would be the effect, where would they work. If we look at all the tariffs that's going on, you have to look at the debt ratio. I mean, our gross national product to debt will make any president scream. It's just pretty interesting. It's like taking on being I don't know, the captain of the Titanic after you hit the iceberg. So I think we have a lot to do, and we've got to get that debt ratio. I think everybody wants to cut the federal debt, and then you got the dollar, and then you have China, which is really not dependent on us anymore. If you look at how they develop a car industry that's the biggest in the world in 4 years now, there's a lot we need to look at. And I think what the president-elect wants to do is to bring manufacturing back to America. That means you might have to pay instead of paying $3,000 for a computer, you might have to pay $6,000. But once you push one thing, you're gonna pull another thing. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens. And then there's the whole idea. You look at deporting people. Obama deported more people than any president in the history of the country. It's always been going on, and we always have to ask Andreas. I mean, what's the impact? Because when you push something, something else pops up. But what certainly is true, you have to try to get the federal debt under control. Also, what is true is that we make very little things in America. If we're going to do like Steve Banner say, bring manufacturing back to America, then that's a cost associated with it. So to do it, we might have to really, really go through some bad times to make manufacturing back, which is more toward the nationalist theme. So it's stuff is going on, and then if you look at the entrepreneur stuff, like you said, companies are still booming. The AI stuff would be just fantastic. If you look at how things are developing, and when Zuckerberg made everything free, then it became more interesting. But the impact on learning, the impact on schools, the impact on travel, the impact on the grid, how the grid operate. If we could ever get some controls on the grid that's automated, then we're in for a very, very interesting future. And I relate it to, hey, the airplane. What happens when television came? What happens when the airplane came? What happens when the teletype came? So we'd stay very, very entrepreneurial and realize that America is good because of what entrepreneurs do. We, unlike China, of course, who have kind of directed from the top, but it's very, very competitive. So the president of China would say, okay, we want to really, really do something in the electric car business. And so then all of the mayors of every city would get active, and they'll compete for the money. They'll fund the money, but then only one or two will make it. In America, we have to go to private enterprise and do the investment ourselves. But we can learn a lot about market economies and capitalism, and maybe beyond capitalism and socialism by looking at what China is doing. So it's very interesting from a scholarly point of view of how economics have thought about our economy, how since Adam Smith, and I'll just say this, Adam Smith talked about the importance of labor, but before it was important of labor, it was important what came from the earth. It was the sun, it was the dirt, it was the minerals, and etc. And when Adam Smith went to Scotland, there was little to come from the land, so he switched to labor, and kind of jumped on that. But I think we need to think a lot about what's going on. So I took
one thing for sure is undeniably is this whole AI impact going forward, and the house of AI is data centers, and Liam can talk for hours, I'm sure, about data centers, and so I have an interest in getting that perspective. So these data centers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, from 50 megawatts to a gigawatt, 2 gigawatts. I'm also really sort of overwhelmed or somehow incredibly surprised of the no money object to building these data centers. These guys are in a race, competing with each other, uh, and they are, even building their own generation of electricity next door to the data center because they don't want to wait, and they, are really, wanting to build these things up quickly. You probably all heard about the latest data center from Elon Musk. They built in Memphis in 19 days. He connected 100,000 NVIDIA servers in 19 days. It's kind of amazing. So, anyways, let me introduce you to Liam Quinn, who is going to be with us today. And Liam has somewhat recently, about 2 years maybe, retired from Dell, where he was a, a fellow and most recently a senior VP. He's a compute networking guy, very bright, and he's now teaching at Texas State University, where I'm also at, and he's in the School of Electrical Engineering and the Ingram School of Engineering, and we're so glad to have him, and we can have a very interesting, deep conversation about many things. So, Liam, welcome.
Andreas, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. John, great to see you again. It's been a while since we met face to face. So glad to be here.
Yeah. So Liam, what are your thoughts on this whole AI race of data centers, and money doesn't seem to be an object, and you got Bezos and Amazon and Musk and Tesla, and they're all designing their own chips, and you got Meta and Zuckerberg and Microsoft, and you got Apple and Google, and all the big boys are throwing billions at this stuff. And where is this heading? What's going on?
Well, I think AI, I think is one of these, to coin a term that I've seen in the press recently, it's like the big bang in the IT industry and computing. And in terms of the impact it's going to have, I don't think we realize what it's going to be and what it can be and will be. And it's going to affect all aspects of society. When you think of the data centers that are going up right now, and there's hundreds of them going up around the world, and AI, you've got the opportunity to actually not have it all in the data center. So there's the whole idea of this distributed computing architecture. It's like the pendulum swing. It goes cloud, it goes distributed, it goes decentralized. And I think AI is going to give more capabilities to leverage the overall end-to-end infrastructure of compute, from IoT devices to PCs to desktop computing, all the way in through networking as well as in the data center. So it will allow decisions to be made based on where it's best to actually run the compute. Not all things have to go to the cloud, and I think that's impractical long term, because you're not going to have the bandwidth to go there. There's latency and so forth. So I think it's that technology is going to allow better decision making on where data can and should be executed without having to depend on all goes to the data center. And I think this is going to really revolutionize architectures as we know today, from an x86 ARM Windows operating system or Linux that we've known for the last 40 years. And I think we have a different type of computing environment where it's like a new lease of life actually for distributed computing on the edge, as well as data centers itself. So I think it's a great equalizer or an enabler of compute where it best suits the compute to happen, based on data and better insights into the data and the applications, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going to be an exciting ride over the next decade with AI in the IT and the compute industry, as well as all
Right.
aspects of our lives, as John said, from consumer retail infrastructure, as well as innovation. I think there's going to be all sorts of new business opportunities being developed and coming out of the ground based on AI and what it can and will enable.
Now, let me ask you this, as a person that's followed this, I look at Watson, IBM Watson. I look at this as Watson on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was a kid, there were computers playing chess. I was a professor in Japan. There was a computer playing the classic guitar, singing in the window. And if you look at the contribution of Watson, what do you see in terms of the algorithm? So Watson was designed mostly for entertainment. But do you think that Watson was the original AI, that we didn't really call it that? Do you think that IBM failed in commercializing Watson as they've done in the past? What are your thoughts on that as we moved into the history of AI and data centers?
Well, AI, the concept of AI has been around for 50 years.
Yeah, that's right.
And Watson was actually the first one in the last decade or so that actually had this long range view of what the future is. And not a lot of people understood it. But the compute wasn't available back 50 years ago to do what's needed and necessary for AI and the algorithms that are around today. If you look at some of the new GPUs from NVIDIA and other companies like that, and the capabilities of those execution engines, I think that's where we're seeing more and more of AI coming into the mainstream today and tomorrow. And you saw the recent one from Google, actually, the capabilities of their AI engine. I think this is where it's a new shift, it's a new change of what we're going to expect and can and will realize with AI. So the concept of AI has been around for a long time. The reality and the execution of AI is actually moving into mainstream right now based on advances in compute and algorithms as well.
Yeah, as an academician myself and looking at my training, as a PhD in organizational science and statistics and social and economic at Northwestern, we were always doing modeling. We didn't call them algorithm, right? We even used the census data to model, what we could. And then, of course, I think when I was my second year in graduate school at Northwestern, we had our first computer that was introduced, and we could put the means and standard deviations in, and we could really engage in prediction. But let me tell you, this stuff now has implications for a number of things. And I think the most important thing it is driving academics back to what I call the core disciplines. So what I mean by that, when I enrolled as a freshman in LSU in Baton Rouge, core disciplines were mathematics, of course, and engineering was applied mathematics. Okay. Core discipline was a social science, and they all had statistics, heavy statistics in economics, heavy statistics in psychology, heavy statistics in sociology. And then, of course, with the business schools and philosophy, of course, started with with logic. So, Andreas, I didn't have a coding class. I had a class 10 times harder than coding called logic, right? So all of the first professors in computer science were philosophy majors that took it on. So my question to you, Lynn, as now at the academy, and as we look forward to educating, not training, educating the next generation of computer scientists, educating the next generation of engineers, and with me, entrepreneurship starts with science and technology and not management, accounting, and finance. It all starts with science. How do you see the disciplines having to change as we educate people to very, very, to capture the essence of AI, if they're in education, if they're in business, if they're writing books, if they're in in journalism. How do you see it changing the academy throughout?
Well, first off, John, I like the term you use, educating, not training. Because a lot of lecturing is training, it's traditional, versus educating and having them understand the topic versus lecturing. Number one. Number two, I think every academic or every professor or every lecturer out there has to change the model. You've got to actually know and understand, and if you don't, you got to learn, you got to take courses, you got to refresh again. What is AI and what does it mean to your topic? But what does it mean to the students? Because they're about to graduate in the next year, in the next 3 years or whatever. And there will be an expectation from a hiring point of view by industries, high-tech, non-high-tech industries. What is your understanding of AI? What can you bring to the table in terms of AI? What's your interest in AI? Because it is going to be in every job that you go to. If you don't understand it, you've got to understand it, because that's going to be part of the interview process. And particularly for electrical engineering or computer science, that will be the number one question. And employers will be looking for graduate students, interns, summer interns and so forth, on what is their capability around AI, what are they bringing to their role, what are they bringing to the company, and what are they bringing to the organization. So I think there's a big emphasis that an awareness that lecturers and professors and those that are in the academic institutions will have to change their way of teaching, not teaching, educating those students in preparation for the entry into the industry. And it's not just in electrical engineering or computer engineering, it's in all disciplines of learning. And in fact, I think you'll see over the next number of years, it will start to percolate down into high schools, just like coding did a number of years ago and even earlier. The awareness of AI and the implications of that from a product point of view, an industry point of view, an economic point of view, as well as an innovation and startup mentality as well.
Yeah, I think that I'd agree. I think what I find again interesting is that math was the solid base of my high school. Math was the solid base of my college, and everything grew out of math philosophy. It just grew out of that, right? And so I'm sort of a statistician by training. And so when AI came, of course, to me is statistics on steroids, right? Whether you're talking about self-driving cars or you're talking about directions, right? It's Markov chain statistically, right? And that's what I mean by education. Because what I see, Lynn, is this: I would say that 80% of the C-suites now, people who are 40 and over, let's say 50 and over, have really no idea of what's coming with AI, right? And then I had the opportunity to be a professor in China, right? And what I found interesting was there 70% of the kids were majoring in the sciences, science and technology. Here, the kids, 70% want to major in business. There's nothing against business, but I'm just saying, when you look at the disciplines, I've seen disciplines go apart. Now I think it's got to come back to the mathematics. I think it has to come back to understanding human behavior in AI. So if you look at the application of AI, is a combination of neuroscience, right, which is coming out of psychology, computer science, right, for an understanding of prediction of where we are going or where the things are going that we make go where they go, right? So I agree that the universities have to be really reconstructed. But I also think there are some universities that would jump ahead of others, and those that are not bogged down in tradition will be left in the sand, and those that can change rapidly, right, and will be changed. So I agree. Okay, my final question I give to Andreas is this: when we look at the enterprises, and let's say bringing industry back to America, and I can say this, I don't mind saying this, I think in the 80s, the C-suite gave our market economy to China, based on the price of labor, and that was expected. But going forward, how do you see the university's participation in bringing manufacturing back to America? Do we have to do like we did in the old days? Do we have to have certain kind of centers of demonstration? Do we have to demonstrate things like we did in the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s, where the university is really cooperated with industry, as we did with Dell Computers, right? How do you see that going forward? Because we're going to have a lot of change in terms of what we're doing.
So just before I go there, when you think of the evolution of the internet,
Yeah.
and the length of time it took for that to reach critical mass, AI has accelerated that by 10x.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't have decades like the internet to grow, mature, get involved in business and enable new disruptive business opportunities like, let's say, Lyft or Uber and so forth. They're just two examples. AI has accelerated that by 10x in terms of awareness, impact, and it's only starting. Okay. Okay, to go back to your question, if you look at students today, they're the future leaders of our economy tomorrow. Whether it's in the 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, or whatever, they're the leaders and will be. I've always found, and maybe this is just me, I've always found that there was a disconnect between the academic institutions and the industries. And I think that's evolved over time slowly in terms of hiring students, graduate students, internships, and so forth. That's one part. But the engagement of the academic lecturers and professors have somewhat been very siloed in terms of R&D within the university, innovation in the industries, and that's a void that was missing and still missing to a certain extent. I think there needs to be more of a reduction in the gap between the institutions and universities in terms of research and innovation in the industry, and have more of a collaborative engagement there. I think there's a lot more to be done by universities in terms of preparing their students for entry into the workforce, engaging with the students in preparation for the next steps in their careers and mentoring them and helping them bridge that gap versus coming out freshly mentored and then you go into a job that's like, can't even find the bathroom. You know, don't understand this whole idea of multiple groups, multiple departments, how they interact, and so forth. I think there's a great opportunity there for courses or mentoring to be done within universities, and a tighter coupling between academic institutions and the industrial world in preparation for really driving America to a better economic, innovative environment than we've had over the last number of decades. That would come then and being able to bring back and manufacturing to the US where appropriate. Not all things have to come back. And then applying new technology breakthroughs like AI in terms of research, understanding what the data is showing and telling you from a research point of view to drive more innovative creativity in products and solutions that are out there. So for example, I taught, again, coming from Dell, if you look at what they're doing right now with AI, they're really doubling down on AI, for example, by understanding where workloads should be run. Is it in the data center? Is it in workstations? Is it over on the client side? How to secure that data, how to manage and predict from a maintenance point of view or anticipate repairs and maintenance on products and solutions for their customers. So there's a lot more that can be done on the existing IT infrastructure that exists today and will tomorrow. We've heard the old adage, the PC is dead, it's going to be replaced by the tablet, and that was about 10 years ago. Well, you know what? They reinvented themselves. The PC industry did. They reinvented themselves over in the data centers. Now we got end-to-end solution providers like Dell and others. And now with AI coupled on top of that, it's even reinventing itself again, but it's going to be at a faster pace that will provide better capabilities from a distributed compute point of view, as well as the research capabilities that will enable those that in the companies that are out there in the industry. So I think it's going to happen really faster now with AI on top of the reinvention of IT, and that's really what's going to break through.
Okay, thank you. Andreas?
No, I was I've always said that, you know, this journey that we're in, you know, and I always go back to thinking about the digitalization of the whole planet. You know, I come back to this old movie Tron. You all might remember that. And eventually, you know, we will be able to cross over into the digital spectrum. But you know, when I look back at the building blocks and I look at my career, you know, in mechanical, electrical engineering, computer science, going to software first, then computers, then telecom, and then energy, and now I'm dabbling into semiconductors. You know, it's really, you know, interesting that we seem to, or at least a lot of people seem to think that we're there, right? And we're far from being there. And telecommunications as an enabling highway for digital transformation is not there, right? Internet of Things needs to, you know, explode 10x, 100x, 1000x. Not everything is sensorized. Not everything is connected. So how do you think about that, Liam? And when you talk and you're teaching and you're talking, and people think that some people may think that we're there, but you know, the amount of data that is available is very tiny. The amount of data that needs to be collected is gigantic. And the journey of, you know, the systems and as an engineer that need to be built and created for security and data management, and you know, the data lakes and the physical structures. I mean, it's just starting, right?
It is starting, and there is a tremendous amount of data out there in terms of data lakes, and computers starting to get to the point where it can actually digest and learn from that data, right? But you've got all these other technologies that are coming out, like 5G, 6G, edge computing, and that goes back to the whole distributed compute model of moving stuff towards the edge versus moving everything towards the cloud. But you've got, and then you've got this whole new paradigm coming with like IoT, which is a whole new source of data generators that didn't exist 10 years ago. We had embedded systems, but they were very proprietary closed systems, like the elevators or the baggage handlers at you know, the airport, and elevators and so forth, and in control systems. But they were all proprietary and worked on their own in the industry. IoT brings all of that into the internet world, right? And allows better insights into what actually is happening there through the use of sensors. And that's enabled because of the reduction in cost of those sensors, reduction in cost of SoCs with embedded sensors. So most things now have some sort of intelligence in there. And that's a whole, it's a whole environment of data generators, right? More than IT ever was and will be. So that data has to be processed locally. This way you have this concept of edge computing, of processing right where it's generated, make decisions at that point, and actually connect back up to the cloud where appropriate and where necessary. So I think where we look at all of the things that are happening around us from a global point of view, data is going to grow and grow exponentially. You need all that compute capability to do it. It can't all be in one spot. That's why it's getting distributed. And we're only starting. And I think AI is going to be one of these pivotal technologies that's going to enable the digestion of that data with better decision capabilities at the right appropriate points in the ecosystem. And it's also going to provide better insights of that data into multiple industries, like say drug development, security, safety, flight, autonomous driving and so forth. So, you know, it's not that one solution fits all. It's where it's all coming together. A journey to go, but I think there's great opportunities there for creativity, development, IP, and innovation. So I think it's going to have an impact on all societies on a global basis. The other part that I'm passionate about too is this concept of an always connected environment, right? Because a lot of tools and platforms we have today, we are connected in certain spots, let's say like hotspots. But why can't we be always connected all the time so you have access to your data regardless of where you are and be secure versus I've got to stop at Starbucks to make a quick stop and upload data or download data. There's a journey to go in that space. It hasn't been solved yet. It's solved, but it hasn't been solved. And again, this is where I think AI is going to help there from an algorithm point of view or coding or modulation point of view. So that's just one example where I think there's a lot of creativity is going to happen in that space as well.
Sure.
Yeah, let's talk about the creativity. What I would call a theory of business. You know, I'm gonna take you back again when I was in graduate school when we had the dumb computer, and all the data was on the server. You know, I would log on, I would have all of this data, and then I'd take it to my last article.
You take your punch cards and board them.
And then I had to walk over and pick everything up. But then I take it to my last article where I went to LinkedIn, and I paid them $60 a month with no names, and I could download as much data I wanted to on entrepreneurs. I did a paper on where they're going, right? So I had all of this data, and I could have had 1 million entrepreneurs. And by the way, this brings the normal curve, which was designed to estimate parameters and the statistics into question. But this is what's interesting me. With all of the data, the creativity is you still need a theory of how the organization should flow. You need a theory of how you can reduce what in the organization. I had a former student come see me last week, and they're working in Mexico, and they put an AI program in, and it reduced their overall cost by $300 million. This was an airline. The question to you is when we talk about the education process, this is what's important to me. We have lots of data, and in the old days, we said garbage in and garbage out. If you remember those days, that was back in the 70s. As we move toward industry, whatever industry it is, and we need to look at areas that are messing up, areas that are, you know, that are vulnerable to things. And if you work in an industry, you need a theory or ideas that you can almost test with the data to make sure that you get the interesting outcomes. Now, you can always throw the data in and just do correlation analysis and then do a loaded analysis or regression analysis and just see what happens. But I think moving forward, our students and our data science people will have to have an understanding of the industry so deep, whether it's the airline industry, whether it's the computer industry, in terms of how the organization will work. But I can tell you this, Lynn, we would have the data, right, to improve almost everything. So my question,
digital twins.
Yeah, my question to you, I mean, what would be the testable theories that we have in operations? Let's say that it's helicopters, or let's say that it's an airline. As management goes forward, don't you think that we need a theory how your organization works with all of that data rather than garbage in and garbage out?
Well, this goes back to the earlier point that I brought up about the opportunity and I think the need for tighter integration between academic institutions and industry leaders and industry segments, right? Why should you wait for 4 years to graduate and you walk out and you're like as green as a cum? Really? And when I look at some of the work that Texas State is doing, particularly with the senior design and the Ingram School of Engineering, they're sharp kids, and they learn. And I think this is where we need to get more engagement from the industry so that they're doing those senior design projects with a purpose or as part of a project that's funded or is sponsored by industries locally or nationally. And again, given where we're in a connected environment with the internet, you don't have to have your sponsor be down the road. It could be in a different state, or it could be in a different part of the state. But I think there are opportunities there to actually leverage a tighter coupling between the academic environment as well as the industry.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, you know, we don't have a model that could have predicted about MedCap, my good friend, and the Ethernet. We didn't have a model when I was in school that predict that Dell would be here, or that a Southwest Airlines would be here. We didn't have a model to predict that electrical engineering would almost take over mechanical engineering. We didn't have a model to predict that biology now is using the same kind of engineering principles, right, in terms of nanotechnology. But for us who came out of college in the 70s, right, there was a way that you were learning how to learn, and all of this had a tremendous impact on the industries that developed, right? So I think I really like your point about, hey, we need to really have a combination, a combined effort between the students and industry. And I can tell you this, Lynn, when I came out of undergraduate school in 1970, then if you look at the engineers, then the industry also retrained them on how to be an engineer. They were looking for smart people, what has happened is engineering has entered biology. It has entered chemistry. What I mean by that is with nanotechnology, the same tools that engineering use are now being utilized in those disciplines, right? In terms of how to make things happen and how to solve problems. Engineering has always been about solving problems. So here's a big question, Lynn, the $64,000 question. How do you get professors to work with industry? Because
Okay. I got some thoughts on that. Before I go there, I think the question should be asked. Let's say Texas State University, for example, just picking those because I happen to be there right now. And you go to the chancellor, you go to the president, and say, what is Texas State University's AI strategy? Right? Ask that question. Gee, I don't know. We haven't had one. If you don't have one, I think this is time to sit straight up and say, really? We need to have an AI strategy. Which means that it has to come from the top down, as in the president, in this example, has to say, we've got to form, I won't say committee, I don't like that term. We should form a group or a team to develop a strategy, and I need it in 90 days. What are we going to do? How are we going to get every professor, every lecturer, assistant, associate, whomever, to engage and define what is your AI component of your course or courses or project? Because if you don't have one, maybe we need to think about a lot of things, right? So, and believe me, I think about that. What is the strategy for your course? Where are you integrating AI and machine learning into the course that you're teaching? Whether it's philosophy, whether it's electrical engineering, computer engineering, industrial engineering, mechanical, and so on and so forth. So that's sort of my riff there. So to answer your question specifically, John, how do we get academics to engage more closely and engage closer with industry? And I think it's not going to happen overnight because, you know, it takes a long time to turn a big ocean-going liner. So, you know, there's an institutional culture in universities. I think it's something that's going to have to be introduced and work on that. For new hires, I think that would be a criteria as part of the interview of what's their AI strategy and what their plans are for their course. But I think those that move fast are going to do well. Those who are going to be slower may not do so well in terms of getting the students with the top jobs or getting jobs in the industry relative to others that may act a lot faster. I think it's a wake-up call, quite frankly. It's a wake-up call in the industry. It's a wake-up call in the academic institutions in North America and globally.
I agree. I have a friend from MIT, Professor Pentland. He wrote a book called Social Physics. It's all about writing equations about the movement of people. And his argument is that, look, we don't need to ask you anything. He took the data from credit cards. He took mobility data, geographic data, right, and created models and told you everything about San Francisco, where people shop, what they purchase without asking one. I'm going to sign that to you. It's called Social Physics by Pentland, Pentland. And that just shows you how it really, really goes back to all disciplines. So his idea was that, look, if you look at cities, right, we don't need to ask you anything anymore, right? Just give me the data, right? Give me all of the data from the movement of whatever it is, what they're using Waze or whatever have you. I don't want anybody's name. Yeah, give me the credit card data, and I can tell you everything that you do. The television shows that you watch for marketing, where you shop for everything, how much liquor you buy in this city for everything, and that's the powerful stuff. How it's going to go into psychology, economics, sociology, all of this data will be able to answer questions where in the past we had to ask you, hey, what do you drink?
Mm-hmm.
Do it anymore. So I think you're exactly right. AI will be everywhere, and it's going to be a great future. And the change for the education of kids will be phenomenal as we move forward.
Right, but it's incumbent upon us in the industry as well as in other institutions as well,
Right.
to bridge that and prepare them for tomorrow. But tomorrow is coming faster than we think.
Right.
So I think that it's a wake-up call, as I said earlier, and I think it's a question that needs to be asked. What is your AI strategy?
Now the data-driven stuff is going to be big. I mean, it's already happening, and we don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
I had.
So
Let me say one thing, Andreas. I had
yeah.
in my MBA class, I had the marketing person for Dell come speak to us, and all of our slides were all equations, all equations. So we can predict what John Butler's going to do. We put him in a network with his friends. If his friends are buying a Lexus car, the probability of him buying one. If you're buying this computer, your friends, it's amazing. None of this marketing data, it was pure equations which you put up. Okay, go ahead, Andreas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, Liam, let's just go into the classroom. So are you using AI? Are your peers using AI? How is AI helping the classroom, helping learning? I hear some people don't like it. Some people think it's heresy. I hear the opposite. I hear people that say that embracing AI and leveraging how to do better critical thinking is the right way to go. What are your thoughts?
Well, my philosophy in the classroom is I don't want to lecture on a topic.
Mm-hmm.
I say to my students, I want you to understand what we're talking about, understand the problem, understand the architecture, understand whatever the topic may be. Not to try and remember it. I don't want you to remember it. I don't want you to try and write lots of notes and then read it and just spit it out when it comes to an assignment or an exam. If you understand something, you will enjoy it and it'll come naturally to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You turn on the switch, up for lights on, down for lights off. But if you understand the concept of why it went on versus off, it becomes natural, right? So that's my philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you bridge in AI, you have to bridge in the concept of what AI is doing. It really is analyzing data. It's like giving you the answer for whatever you need. It's that deeper insight, as in, like, if I turn on the switch, well, what's the impact of that, and where could AI apply a better decision to be made, or some insight into the action of physically turning on that switch or asking that switch to turn on based on a voice, sensor input, right? So it's really adding the capabilities of AI into the topic that you're teaching or providing, and the benefits of it versus not being there. And I think that's how you'd have to blend it in so that the students then understand what AI brings versus not AI being present, right?
Yeah.
So it's like John said earlier, and if you go back to that first introduction, he said, where they were chasing down that person that created that bad crime in New York. In reality, they were using AI there because they were taking data coming in from cameras and different locations and stitching that together to map out the trajectory of where that person was going after he left New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of where AI was being applied to data being generated by sensors out there or IoT cameras or edge devices, and it was all being brought together and integrated and digested by AI algorithms to put it together, the insight into what that data was showing and sharing, right?
Yeah, absolutely fabulous. I mean, the future is because Andrew, I think what we've said on the program altogether is that the prediction models are awesome. The prediction
Mm-hmm.
models for, I've always, Andreas, I've always just really, I looked at my professors in music. I had an envy for my professors in music. And let me tell you why. I have a good friend who teaches trombone at the University of Texas. For a student to get in his class, he has he didn't take a test. He has to be able to play.
No, yeah, you have to audition.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
got to
yeah.
audition. If you want to study violin, you got to audition, right? If you want to play for Nick Saban, you got to already know how to play. He doesn't have time to teach you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine how we can improve our predictive models of college admissions? So I would tell all of my professors in music, okay, so this guy, this person now is going out, they're playing the trombone solo, they got all these violins, but you audition them, right? And when you
Mm-hmm.
audition them, you said you were in. When I was in college, I played in the Tiger Band at LSU, right? But I had to audition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just take a test to say, I think I know how to play trombone. I didn't take a test to say, I think I'll be a good student. Can you imagine if you had to audition with all of the data that we have? And I think we have
Mm-hmm.
to do lots of stuff. I used to tell all my kids at McCombs, okay, don't throw up on Facebook this year because you're going to have a job interview. Okay, don't put the
Mm-hmm.
data out there because it's going to be there, right? So I
Yeah.
think what's exciting about the future is, as Liam said, our ability to predict crime, our ability to predict industries, our ability to look at where things are going, including, I might add, the stock market. I think that we need better algorithms, and I think the biggest one is going to be insurance. I was a major
Mm-hmm.
consultant for State Farm for 21 years, and it's all about who you select, right? And Liam, I think that you would go to the grocery store one day, pull out your credit card, and they might say, "We don't want your credit." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going down I-35 and get stopped by a policeman, right? And they put your put your license plate in the computer, everything shows up. Might save the policeman's life.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a wonderful thing? But I really think in terms of education, of how we choose students or where students should go, there'll be so much data that would allow, to predict. Because I could never predict which professor will be great professor. With me, is measured by things that you do and things that you publish. Some people develop late, and some people developed early. So I think that the prediction point, as Lynn said, is just awesome in understanding how the data-driven society would be, and it's just starting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So Liam, I'm looking at the time here, and I'm curious. What are your thoughts? Coming for the semester is done. I assume that you was a successful one for you. How do you see this conversation, evolving and turning into reality in your classroom and in the ecosystem that you're working on, and what can you share about the next 6 months, the next 12 months?
I've been giving that a lot of thought. I think there's a few things. One, I think we need to have the discussion at the department level of what's your AI strategy, starting. kick that off.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it's certainly going to be a conversation I'd have with the students in the spring semester, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not go in as, you know, it happens in a lot of cases where you go in day one, introduce yourself and start lecturing, you know, what's the rush? Sit down and have that conversation of saying AI is going to be a big part of the semester and the content. And have that first lecture talking about the impact of AI in society, just like we had here with you and John,
Mm-hmm.
to start thinking about that and have them part of the discussion, as in, you know, what's your thoughts? How does it come into your thinking? How do you think
Mm-hmm.
it into the course itself? How do we modify the content that we're sharing so that we can apply an AI element in there? And
Mm-hmm.
I think engaging the students, they're not kindergartners, is to engage them and say, we need your input, we need your participation, we need your thoughts on this. And collectively, then you can start to integrate that. Is it going to be perfect day one, the first semester? No. But over a period of 1 or 2 semesters, you start to really raise that level every semester in order to really integrate it deeper into the overall curriculum itself. So work to be done over the holidays.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they
Absolutely.
have me back.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, they might say, you know what, we don't need you anymore. Move on.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm fascinated by the time that we're living. I could have not really ever imagined how amazing it would be, what's going on and the acceleration of innovation and applied to everything and how things are. You know, I don't know if you've seen this device that I find it fascinating. And a lot of people, I remember a lot of people talking about a device like this 20 years ago as I was doing telecom and things like that. But there are some earpieces now that translate over 100 languages simultaneously, real time. And so you can put these things on and be talking to somebody and you use your phone as a speaker for it to talk back to the other person so you can have a conversation. And I can, you know, and I imagine that that's just barely leveraging AI. And so where AI and edge compute and connectivity is going to take us is just unbelievable. Any
Well,
final thoughts, Johnny?
Well, yeah, I think that what's exciting to me are the new enterprises that's going to come out. For example, you mentioned the earpiece, right? Yes, that's there. And also the enterprises that it will replace. So if we look at all of how, you know, whether it was, you know, the computer replacing the typewriter. When I came to the University of Texas, I had one demand. I wanted an IBM typewriter with all of the keys and all of the balls. That's what I wanted. I wanted a electric typewriter, right? So I think it's not just the technology, it's how the technology will replace how enterprises do business. I mean, everything from restaurants. I mean, we saw how restaurants changed during the pandemic. So the excitement for innovation is just off the scale. And I expect a lot of more AI companies to co-develop. And then I expect a lot of AI companies to go by the wayside in the future. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
had lots of computer companies here in Austin. We had Austin Computers with Dewan that started, that was right there with Micah. And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
the best and the brightest, you know, kind of went ahead, and it's going to be the same way with AI companies. So it's an
Yeah.
excitement.
Leon, final thoughts?
yeah, I think I like the way you said it. You know, when you look at where we are today, it's a really, really exciting time. And when you look back over the last number of decades, you know, we're all of the same vintage. You know, we rode the whole internet coming on board. We rode the whole PC industry. We rode the hedge. We rode the wireless technologies industries, both in the unlicensed spectrum and the licensed spectrum. We rode the emergence of servers and stackable servers and rackable servers. And if you look at server farms today, they're almost back to the mainframes and mini computers that DEC and Prime and all those companies had back in the day. So it's almost coming full circle. So we're blessed to be in this industry right now from a technology point of view, a learning point of view. I think there's also an awareness that we have to continuously be in a learning mode as well. And not to say that, you know, nothing new is coming. Every day in technology, in electrical engineering, computer engineering, and in IT, it's a constant change. Change is constant, right? And I feel blessed to be in this industry. I really do. But also it's an opportunity to continuously learn, keep your brain active and young. And if we thought yesteryear was very exciting, I think tomorrow is even going to be more than that. And I think the opportunity to learn and to share and to give back is paramount right now. There's a lot we can and should and will do in order to bridge that opportunity of what we've learned and understood over the last number of decades into the future generations that are college students, graduate students, even high school students that are coming through in order to provide that those opportunities. And I think also from a personal learning point of view, I think it's wide open right out there for lots of innovation and creativity.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, let's stay tuned, and maybe we'll have you back in a year, see how things have progressed. But I think 2025 is going to be a significantly defining year, primarily because of innovation in AI and how AI is going to sort of accelerate a lot of things that have been going on around digitalization, IoT, edge compute, the cloud, you know, autonomous vehicles, electrification of transportation. I think AI is going to play a huge role, obviously healthcare. I can't wait to see how healthcare is going to take it and how the nurse of the future is going to, you know, take care of me when I go to my visit or what have you, and robots, and this is going to be amazing. So great
Strap
time
on.
to be. What now?
Strap on. Get ready for an exciting moment.
Strap on, that's right.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely, Liam. So thanks for being with us, and we'll circle back. And anyways, always a pleasure. And Johnny, take us away.
The times have changed. Where's the good times that we should be sharing? If we can find any answers in the good times we've had.
Woo.
Good job, John.
Thank
Liam,
you, Johnny.
I think you play a little guitar, don't you?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, not the guitar. Thin whistle.
All right, Liam, but we'll be in touch.
Okay.
If we don't see you, happy holidays, and we'll keep tabs on what's going on at Texas State.
Okay, same to you both. Thanks again, Andreas, for the opportunity. John, great to see you again.
You bet. I really enjoyed it. Take care.
Thank you. Likewise, yes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.